Hi, I'm Henry, working for Oneness Software. So today we will talk about how to build your own CDN for OTT streaming. So let's start. Building OTT CDN by Oneness Software. So first of all, what is OTT streaming? OTT over the top means it is not using the cable or satellite or terrestrial medium to deliver the content. It's right on the top of those mediums. So it is now referring as internet. To more specific, OTT streaming is using HTTP protocol. Meaning it can use the same web infrastructure to deliver the multimedia content, like the live video or VOD, without any additional investments. Most common OTT streaming methods are Apple HRS, MPEG-2, and Smooth Streamings. All of them support adaptive bitrate change according to the client connectivity. So how OTT streaming works is mainly combined with two things. The first thing is the playlist, manufactured files. No matter HRS dash or smooth streaming, they all require the playlist or manufactured file to describe how the content package. For HRS, it is a plain text file. The master playlist contains the subplaylist for different speedway with or without audio or subtitle playlist. And the subplaylist contains the actual content segment URI and its metadata, like the duration, language, codec information. Dash and smooth streaming is using XML-like format, so both using a template to look up the content segment URI. The second part of this OTT streaming is the content segments. A content segment are the small chunks of the content. So each chunk is about 5 to 10 second durations. For the live, maybe even shorter to cope with the live latency. The actual format is at the MPEG-TS files or the CMAP files. The CMAP file is a newly curated format in 5 years' time, which is commonly used nowadays. Simple OTT CDN setup. Okay, the first thing we need is a OTT streaming origin. Today we will use a Nginx as the HTTP daemon for this origin. And of course, you can use other things like Apache or IIS web server for this OTT streaming origin. The second thing we need is the HRS sample content. I prepare the HRS content by a Saka packager. Of course, you can use other tools like FFmpeg to package fragment MP4 to HRS. And then we need the Vonage cache node to perform the caching. And the cache node will use the memory and the disk as a cache. And this demonstration will also use the Vonage controller to administrate the Vonage cache load and monitor the cache utilizations. Okay, so we need to set up the HRS origin first. And the IP is 192.168.52.136. And it is running Nginx at this moment. And we put the content under /VOD content / master.n3u8 and the live in the live content. So similar pattern. Okay, once the origin is okay, then we need to set up the cache, the recache. So the cache, we use the memory to keep the content for caching. And the IP address is 192.168.56.132, which is a recache. And we also need to set up the backend to point to the HRS origin. So it is the same IP address as 136. And then we also set up a controller in this demo to configure the V-cache and also use it to monitor the cache utilizations. And then we set up another laptop. We use Safari as a client, first to test the content from the origin, and the test origin is listed on port 8080. And then once it is okay, then we go to fetch the content from the V-cache. But on this V-cache, we set up a fixed domain for this testing, so which is company xyz.com. And this domain actually is mapped to the V-cache IP address, which is 132. Okay. And the flow is one, the laptop requests the content from the cache. It will look up the IP address and then it will fetch the content from the origin. In the V-cache, we also set up extra parameters to control the object lifetime. Let's say the VOD manifest file and the rest of the content files. Let's say the TS file and the AAC file for the audio. And also for the live content, we have the live setup for the manifest file. And also the live TS file and the audio files. So all these things will be set up in the V controller. Okay, let's prepare the origin first. So here is the origin server. I installed the Nginx. So let's check the Nginx is running. So the Nginx is running and I put the document is under this directory. So I have the VOD content and live content. We just separate two different things. So in the VOD directory, I have the two folder. One is Taiwan 101 Tower content and another one is Elephant Dreams content. So let's check on the Elephant Dreams. So it will package like this one. I have the master files and then two subfolder. One is audio and one is video. Let's check on the master files. So it's pretty simple. So it describes the content, the segments, and the audio, where is find the audio, and then the audio name and the channel, some meta informations. And also the bandwidth for this video and the codecs for this video. Okay, so this one is the video URI and this one is the audio subplaylist URI. And this one is the iframe only playlist for track pace. Okay, let's check on the video. So in the video, you will see a list of TS file. It starts from 1 to up to 70 something or 80 something. And then in the main.nvux, this file, it describes the content and also the location of this file. So it used the relative path. And also you mentioned the durations is used by the player to display the the status bar. Okay, so here it is the content look like. So let's see how it look on a browser. So from the browser, I have the port 8080 open for the origin like this one. And then I type VOD Dream and Elephant Dream. Master.n3u8. Okay, here we go. So it will play back the content. That's it. That is how we prepare the origin. Okay, once the origin is ready, then we can prepare the varnish cache look. So this one is my cache look prepared before. The IP is 132 and checked process is running. Okay, it is running on port 6081 and using the memory as the cache. Okay. And how can we configure it? We install the varnish controller on another machine is 137. So let's check on the 137 with a browser. Okay, here is the varnish controller and we just log into it. So from the server node, I can see my 132 varnish cache. Okay, it is running. And from here, I can check the status of that machine as well. Okay, it is in real time. You can see how much memory is using and the bandwidth is used by the machine. And from the configurations, I configured the backend as 120.136, which is I set it up at before for the origin, port 8080. And then you can see here some specific configuration for different type of content. So let's say the VOD playlist, I want to keep it for 72,000 seconds and set the cache header to the same value as well. But I have set a longer value for the VOD other type of content, let's say the TS file or the AAC file for the audio. And then for the live, I want to change it for a very short lifetime for the minifax and longer lifetime for the actual content. And then the rest of the content, I just want to keep it 100 seconds only. So here is how we set and configure for the environment. Okay. So once I make some change, I modify it, I just keep save and it will push to the system. So once we deploy the configurations to the cache node, so actually there's a domain defined for this configuration as well. So we have a fixed domain, it's called companyxyz.com. So in my laptop, so I need to create a host record for this one. So I have this one to point to the cache node 56.132. So when I ping .companyxyz.com, actually is point 132. And then from the browser, so let's check on the browser. I'm using Safari. Here is the browser. We check the origin setup. View the Elephant Dream. Okay, here is working. And let's check on the network loadings. Okay, it is downloading the content from the 136 from the origin. And let's check on the company A and then on the port xyz.com, port XD81, VOD, Elephant Dreams. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's also loading. Let's check on the network side. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, the content is downloading from the cache node xyz.com. Okay, as I said, the company xyz.com actually is pointing to 132. So the 132 actually fetching the content from 136. Okay, so from the Varnish cache logs request, and let's refresh it. So you will see lots of requests from the browser to getting the content from the cache. And then the cache actually is fetching the content from the memory right now because it's got a hit. And then the original content actually from the Nginx. You can see the date time, the cache control time. That's what we set it in the configuration is 86,400 seconds. Okay, that's it. Okay, in the Varnish controller, so the Varnish controller beside the configurations also provide you a dashboard. So it will show you the system utilization for all the cache logs. Let's say how is the hit rate, the miss, and the request in total, and how many VCL group you define in these systems, and overall the hit rate per second, and how is the hit rate across the time. You got a graph here. The green is the hit, the red one is the miss. And then you have the overall hit and miss and others status value in this page. And also top 5 requests by server, top 5 requests by hit, top 5 requests by miss. Some basic information, you can show it here. And then you can also check the individual server currently the real-time status. So how much CPU you're using to handle the traffic and how much memory is left for to deliver the content, and what is the network interface bandwidth egress and ingress traffic here. You can receive and transmit, and also for another interface as well. So I use 2 interfaces. For one is receiving the content from the client, and the other one is used to fetch the content from the origin. So you can compare the difference. So you have very low traffic from the internal network to fetch the content because all the content is cached, and to the client it will be the proportion to how much user you are connecting to fetch the content. Okay, so here is the summary. Thank you.